I got my Nintendo Switch in November of 2017, and ever since I saw that reveal trailer, specifically the part with the dude on a plane, I've wondered what the Nintendo Switch is like to live with. I mean, my main portable console was my PlayStation Vita, with my main being my Xbox One, but the Switch is being sold as a hybrid console. One to play at home, in bed, on a bus, on a plane, at the gym, I guess if you wanted to? Or even on the go. I ruined the line, fuck. So the goal of this video is to look into what it is actually like to live with a Nintendo Switch and see if Nintendo is really selling a great hybrid console. But to also offer you, the viewer, a practical guide to the Nintendo Switch by someone who's actually used the device day to day and in all of its possible modes. So please join me as I take my Nintendo Switch with me to university, to Florida, and with me as I go through my days. This is living with the Nintendo Switch. Oh, one thing before we begin, this video is not sponsored in any way by Nintendo or any of the products you see in this video. Just wanted to clarify that before we begin. Okay, cool. On with the show. Right, say you get this console, but you want to keep it at home, and only at home. If you bought a brand new Nintendo Switch, you would get inside the box 2 separate Joy-Cons, one left, one right, the Joy-Con grip, some Joy-Con straps, a Switch power adapter which is connected via USB-C, a HDMI cable, and this dock. And also the Nintendo Switch, but when you buy a video game console, the console itself is kind of implied in my opinion. The dock itself has a few USB ports, the USB-C in ports connected to the TV, and I mean that's about it. In the back of the Switch is where you'll put the power adapter and the HDMI cable in. But the thing is, it really doesn't give you too much room to have cable management. I mean, when I have my USB Ethernet adapter inside along with a HDMI cable and my power supply, I cannot close the back, so it just remains open on my desk, unless I'm taking it somewhere with me. The plastic inside when docking your Switch can actually scratch your screen, so a screen protector is recommended in my opinion. You can also get these covers for the Switch dock known as Switch Dock Socks, so that the Switch gets a smooth entry into the dock without the fear of being scratched. I have one myself, and hey, it does the job. You may have noticed I mentioned a USB Ethernet adapter earlier. Well, this is because the Switch's Wi-Fi range is indeed good, but not good enough for me where I am, thus I needed to get one. But this Amazon Basics USB 3.0 one works straight away, so that's all good. Alright, you got a game and you want to play it. Just a heads up, you only get 32GB of on-built storage with the console, which after you take into account the operating system, leaves you with about 29GB. So a micro SD card is recommended in my opinion. I got myself a 64GB one, and a word of advice, don't get the Nintendo Switch branded ones, they are a rip-off, just get your normal Samsung or Sony one or whatever. You can either play your games off the hard drive or on a cartridge. Both are great options because load times are pretty damn fast on most games. However, the game prices are expensive due to a little BS thing called Switch tax. Any game that is say normally £40 on other platforms will have a little bit extra on top due to what Nintendo are calling manufacturing costs. Even though this may be bullshit to me, fine, whatever. But why are the Switch eShop games more expensive than the cartridge versions? Which reminds me, the eShop is where you're going to be buying your digital games, and it's not too bad to navigate. It is very basic, and shovelware is sadly starting to break into the eShop, but besides that, it's fine. There were issues at launch that you couldn't actually add a credit card to it, but that's all been fixed now. Right, you got a game, but what are you going to play it with? The Switch offers many options at your disposal in terms of controllers. First, you have the packed-in Joy-Cons, and they themselves offer multiple ways to play. Playing with the Joy-Cons separate with these little grips they give you is just horrible in my opinion. You feel like you have less control, and the additional buttons on the inside of each controller barely do a thing. Not even in Super Mario Odyssey, one of Nintendo's flagship games on the Switch. Playing with the packed-in Joy-Con grip, however, is a better option. It is also really useful to put into a bag or something to take with you, as it's pretty much all plastic. It is simply just a shell for your Joy-Cons to sit in. I don't mind it, but I have smaller hands than your average human being, so maybe getting the Joy-Con comfort grips is more up your alley. There are more traditional controllers here though. We got all these third-party ones, with some being better than others, though I have not used any of these yet, and thus I cannot comment on them. It appears now that I can actually comment on a third-party Nintendo Switch video game controller. In my possession now, I own a Nintendo Switch Legend of Zelda third-party controller by Power A. Once I open this box, you will see that inside there is a wire and a controller. And that's about it. As you can see, there's a nice D-pad which the Joy-Cons don't have, and there's a cool photo of Link, I guess, and that's about it. Well past me, do you have any comments? It's a controller. Finally, there is the Nintendo Switch Pro Controller. I've used one of these things, and they are pretty darn good. Having a nice feel, having a proper D-pad unlike the Joy-Cons, but the Pro Controller is super expensive in my eyes, and that is the reason I have not got one yet. Oh yeah, there are some games that are touchscreen only, but we normally don't talk about these games because they're not worth your time, so we shall just disregard that and move on. Right, game, controller, get set up, and we're all ready to go. The reason you have this dock is to connect your Switch to your TV. And when you're playing with your Switch docked, the game will normally output at a higher pixel count to your TV compared to if you're playing it in portable mode. Besides that, you are pretty much having the exact same game experience. I mean, you can't use the Switch's touchscreen in docked mode, but I have no games that really use the touchscreen, and I don't want to smudge my damn screen up, so I will do no such thing and never touch my touchscreen ever. When you're at home, it's a Nintendo console, nothing more to say than that really. I mean, if we're getting nitpicky here, since the Switch sits in a dock and it isn't locked into it, taking a game in and out can be annoying, since the Switch moves about at times and you think you're harming the damn thing. But yeah, as I was saying, the Switch is just a quality console when docked. Don't expect Xbox One or PlayStation 4 level graphics here for many third-party games, but the console holds its own, and hey, it's built on mobile architecture, the same stuff you would normally see in high-end smartphones, so in my opinion, it deserves some props. It is worth mentioning before we move on that the Switch is a games console at heart, and unlike the Wii U, has no media apps. There's no YouTube, no Netflix, no Hulu if you're in America. There is a workaround to view YouTube, but that's about it. Also, no Miiverse, like the Wii U before it got discontinued. Instead, you can link your Twitter and Facebook, and doing that, you can share screenshots and short clips you recorded on the Switch itself with the dedicated screenshot button, which in my opinion is pretty darn cool. So yeah, living with the Switch as a home games console is fine and all, but let's get portable. The Nintendo Switch has a battery life which fluctuates depending on the game you're playing. Playing Breath of the Wild or Mario Odyssey? Expect 2.5 to 3 hours of gameplay, while 2D games like Golf Story or Celeste can go up to 6 hours. It really does depend. And of course there are other variables like if the Wi-Fi was on and how bright the screen is. These numbers aren't too bad in my opinion, but maybe consider getting a portable battery pack to extend the life of the Switch's battery for a bit. Especially useful on a trip, but we'll get to that later. When you're in portable mode, you can play it like this with the Joy-Con docked into the Switch itself, or you can play it with the supplied kickstand. Inside here is where your microSD card will go, by the way. I only really play it with the Joy-Cons docked when I am, say, on a bus or a place where I cannot settle the thing down. This is not a bad thing, playing in this mode is fine. It's what I do on the bus to university, and when, like I said, there's no room for a surface for my Switch to be put on. And it's even good for your Joy-Cons. Oh yeah, the Joy-Cons have a long battery life of around 20 hours, and while the Joy-Con is docked into the Switch, whether that be in portable or docked mode, they get charged while you play. Out of the box, this is the only way to charge them. But there are other ways, like an actual AA battery adapter, or even Joy-Con charger grips. But right now, I just stick to what came in the box. Also, if you haven't noticed by now, the Joy-Cons can be split to be used as two separate controllers. There are issues with this, as whoever gets the right Joy-Con kinda gets screwed in my opinion, as the stick is in the center of the controller. Because of this design choice, as I briefly mentioned earlier, the Joy-Cons do not have a traditional D-pad due to both controllers needing to have the same button layout to be used as two separate controllers. This is a shame, however I can give you a great example of when having two Joy-Cons can be a good thing. You see, when playing on the go, the Switch offers local play depending on the game you are playing. For example, during a meetup with some friends in September 2017, everybody got out their Switches and we had an impromptu Mario Kart 8 tournament and the controllers felt fine. Originally we were just taking the piss by doing this, saying let's do the advert, but then we ended up falling for the marketing and properly playing for like half an hour. All we had to do was slide out the Joy-Cons and set the consoles down with supplied kickstands. Nintendo calls this playing it in tabletop mode. Playing at tabletop mode for me is a better option than holding the Switch when you can. However, the kickstand itself is weak, but does a fine job of holding the Switch up in most cases. I did get myself a stand by Hori, however, for a few reasons. One is that it has more stability and I feel much more confident having this be my portable stands, and the other is that I cannot actually charge my Switch when using the supplied kickstands. Yeah, unfortunately you can't actually charge your Switch when using tabletop mode. But, oh well, it's not too big of a deal. The Switch charges quite fast anyways, so say you were waiting for a connecting flight, you can get some good charge on your Switch. But we'll talk about using it on a plane later. The screen itself is a 6.2 inch LCD 720p screen. In person, this looks pretty damn good, and in my opinion is a pretty nice screen. Shame you can't view any YouTube videos on it, but oh well. It can get quite bright and has some nice viewing angles on it, so you can use it in most places and be okay. You may be wanting to play this in a quiet place, but maybe are worried about the console's fans making noise. Well, don't. It barely makes a noise, and it has a headphone port on it so you can plug some headphones in and play in peace. On the flip side of that, the speakers... they're decent? Nothing special, but they get the job done. I mainly used the tabletop mode when I was somewhere where I had a bit of time to kill, like at the library before a meeting, or in Wales when I was visiting some peeps. But anyways, I went on a trip to Florida for a week, and I saw this as a great time to put the Switch for its paces and see how cool the Switch is for people who live a travelling lifestyle. And to also debunk if the trailer for the Switch is, true. When travelling, a case is needed in my opinion. There are a wide array of cases you can get, but mine is a simple one I got from Amazon. In it, I carry all the games I own physically, so... like one, along with some cleaning cloths. I am going to retread my holiday to Florida here, but don't worry, I will only talk about it if the Switch had a part in it. It was a fun holiday though. When travelling with my Switch, I took my Hori dock, the Joy-Con grip, and of course my case for my Switch when I put it into a bag. For the charger, I just brought my Samsung Galaxy S8 charger, as they both use USB Type-C and it charges the Switch just fine. To start with, I took a train to London, and there I finally got to play a cool platformer known as Celeste. It has a great soundtrack and fun but tough gameplay, and for near my entire train journey, I played this. I used the Hori dock and it barely moved. I did try the kickstand on the Switch, and it lasted a short while before falling over after a small bump. From the train to the plane, I had it in my case, and even got to charge it for a bit in the British Airways lounge for my 2 plane journeys to come. Now came my time to finally test how true the original reveal trailer was. Speaking of the reveal trailer, I would like to comment on an attractive member of the opposite sex also having a Switch and taking an interest in one. I personally did not experience this. Perhaps it's because I am not that aesthetically pleasing to the opposite sex, or nobody in my department lounge cared about the Nintendo Switch. I'll let you decide that. Playing the Switch on an airplane isn't the best experience in the world, at least the way he played it. I still do not really understand the Joy-Con in each hand technique. It really bugs me. You feel like you have less control due to each Joy-Con having no weight, and simply I would just worry about dropping them. Luckily the Joy-Con straps come with some wrist straps, but imagine dropping your Joy-Cons on a plane and just hearing them slide down. Anyways, with my Switch in my portable dock and my Joy-Cons in the grip, the experience of playing on a plane was actually not too bad. Unlike with the normal kickstand where even a slight bit of turbulence would knock the bastard thing over. The size of the portable dock is pretty damn small too, so as you can see here, it fits perfectly onto the little table you are given on an airplane seat. Since a seat on an airplane is normally a cramped space, you will have some issues regarding taking your Switch in and out of your bag. So if you say ordered some food and you see the cards at the start of your aisle, prepare yourself. One thing of note here is that the Nintendo Switch does require a power source that has a bit of juice to charge it while it is on. So for example, a USB port on your seat will more than likely not charge it while you're playing a game. Those are designed for phones, and the Switch simply uses too much power for it to charge. My portable power supplies does charge it when I'm playing a game, but at a very slow rate. If your seat has a plug however, whether that be on a plane, train or bus, you should be fine. That was the first flight, a flight from London to Philadelphia. I still had a connecting flight however from Chicago to Florida. This flight I felt in full force the pain of my setup. If you play with the Joy-Cons connected in handheld mode, you're perfectly fine if you have to move often. However, as you can see here, I was on the end of an aisle next to the loo, and the kid next to me had a bladder problem. This resulted in me playing Mario in portable mode, which limits what you can do, as you have to flick the Joy-Cons in a certain way to get your hat, Cappy, to do shit like be thrown in a circular motion. Actually, on holiday, I did not play my Switch at all, as I'm on holiday, man. I'm not going to play a damn games console when I'm away in a different country. I watched their TV, but it is worth noting that my little brothers, who were actually surprised...
Hello.
and my auntie played it during their downtime. So the Switch does seem to attract some attention, which means it could be good to give to a younger sibling or something to keep them busy while you're doing something. Just make sure they don't grub up the Joy-Cons, because they are a pain in the bum to clean. Anyways, Florida was really fun, I got a sunburn, blah blah blah. The Switch. On the first plane to Chicago on the way back, I played some Celeste, which I really recommend not doing. Playing a pixel perfect, hard as heck platformer sucks with even a slight bit of turbulence. Even though I was using my Hori portable dock, which kept my Switch pretty secure, there was one thing my Hori dock could not protect the Switch from. The person in front of me. Many times over the 3-odd hour flight, the person in front of me kept flinching pretty damn hard in their chair, and as a result, my Switch kept on getting knocked over. So many times, in fact, I gave up playing my Switch for a bit and just talked to the guy next to me. He was actually a really lovely man. Hi Mike if you're watching, nice meeting you mate. At Chicago Airport, after being a tourist in a damn airport and indulging in some Dunkin' Donuts, I thought I would try and connect my Switch to the public Wi-Fi. But then I thought about how shite public Wi-Fis are and didn't bother. There is a secret browser in the Switch, but you can't do much with it, and I do not recommend playing a video game on public Wi-Fi, even if you are desperate to play your mate back home on some Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. The final plane on my journey home was actually the only newer plane I went on during my journey, so I indulged in a few movies and didn't actually play my Switch at all. I indulged in some Plants vs Zombies. But do not fret, we are not leaving this video on such a note. Let's talk about using your Switch on a bus. I know I mentioned earlier at times I would play my Switch on the way to university, and you are indeed correct. But playing on a long distance bus is a whole other ballgame. The bus company I went with have buses that constantly shake, which will make you feel ill, but more importantly for this video, will make whatever you put on those tiny little tables on your chair wobble like hell. So, as you could guess, playing the Switch long distance on a bus is no fun at all. Would not recommend it. I mean, you can play it in portable mode, you know, with the Joy-Cons docked into the Switch, but even then, you shake a lot, so precise movement will not happen. Just don't do it. The main purpose of this video was to show you how interesting the Nintendo Switch is to live with, and I felt the best way to show you its potential is to tell you my experience with travelling halfway across the world with the Switch, as well as playing it at home. And I hope this video helped sway you on if you want the Switch or not, depending on your lifestyle. Personal opinion on the console? Yeah, I like it. Though I only own about 6 games due to how expensive the bloody games are. This would not be my main console, however, due to its lack of power and lack of third-party support. It has some, but I'm not holding my breath for many game series that I like coming to the Switch anytime soon. But the Nintendo powerhouses like Mario are the reason why I own this console. I will continue to take my Switch with me as I travel, as this little console is a neat piece of kit and I do not regret picking it up in any way. But anyways, this was my experience living with a Nintendo Switch. Thank you very much for watching, and hey, if you want to play with me, here's my friend code. I'm going to regret sharing that, aren't I?